Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. It's Thursday, the 23rd of October. Thank you for joining me. There's a lot of severe weather around for today. Let's kick off with the satellite map. A lot of rain, thunderstorms over on the west coast, some of those pushing through into the mountains, which means it will affect some of the waterways spilling over into Canterbury. Speaking of Canterbury, and in fact more so Marlborough, those very strong winds are coming through today. I was chatting to James Morrison on X this morning. He was posting some amazing wind numbers showing wind gusts of over 220 kilometres an hour around some parts of Marlborough. So that windy squash zone is moving into the lower North Island due to this storm near Stewart Island, 963 hectopascals when we recorded this. That's very low air pressure, and it's going to go down to the 950s as it tracks along to the south of the country during today. So a lot of things going on, and that heavy west coast rain will move into the North Island, but it will fall apart due to high pressure, which is further north. In fact, it's the high north of the country interacting with the storm tracking by to the south here that's encouraging this very windy squash zone. You've got areas through central New Zealand, so whether that's the Marlborough Sounds or up around Wellington, Wairarapa, that area there very windy. Parts of Canterbury very windy as it comes over the mountains, and of course right down here next to the storm itself, Stewart Island, Southland getting blasted by it too. All of that is moving sort of slightly northwards today, but really it's moving eastwards. And so as we go through the next day or so, or into this evening at least, those winds will start to ease back. So let's explain it, and we'll show you the wind map. So here we are, 1 o'clock today. Heavy west coast rain here in the gold yellow. That is slowly moving northwards. But as you can see, as you go further to the north, that rain falls apart due to higher pressure up the country. So yes, a few showers, some patchy kind of rain around, most of that coming through tonight for the north. Windy weather, obviously, mainly north of Canterbury or north of Christchurch, especially around central New Zealand, around Cook Strait, to the south and to the north of it. And that will go right up and towards Hawke's Bay, even up towards Gisborne. So keep up to date with the MetService for the official warnings on where the worst of those winds will be. And like I say, that wet weather pretty heavy on the west coast, and the very south of the country, a southerly change. Polar air is now moving towards you. So here is the wind gust map for this afternoon, only showing the areas that have the highest potential for severe gale. That's why you don't see the top of the country, so we can zoom in closer on these areas. So it's broken up. The mountains and ranges create surges of very windy weather, but around it you'll see these calm spells. Now that's just a 1 o'clock snapshot. Those move around all the time where those calmer areas are and where the worst of the winds are, as it all is around the storm tracking near Stewart Island, and that moves along to the east. But check out also the very strong winds down around Southland, Foveaux Strait, Stewart Island, potentially damaging gusts coming through there with winds in excess of 150 kilometres an hour potentially as that storm moves on through. Now 4 o'clock, showing the big picture. This is why we're not focused on the top of the country. Yes, it's windy, but it's not as stormy or problematic as what you're seeing through central parts of the country, the lower North Island and the upper South Island. But there's a bit of a easing going on with some of the wind, and you can see here as we go into the afternoon, the worst of the winds from the storm moving quite fast, just like the westerly winds. It's all moving very quickly from the west to the east. And so by tonight, 10 o'clock tonight, a lot of the severe wind areas have kind of fallen back. Now we still have areas in the purple, the darker shading, that could be still very blustery and still into severe gales. So those warnings may continue into tonight and overnight. But the worst of the wind does appear to be today. And by Friday, high pressure nearby means much lighter winds around New Zealand, although still a bit windy in the red. Those are gusts up to about gale force. So 1 o'clock Friday, the polar boundary returns. Sorry to say, it's going to be around for the long weekend in the lower South Island. Here we see it on 1 o'clock Friday, moving up the west coast, covering Westland, covering Southland, Otago, and even South Canterbury. Your temperatures are down. It's mostly dry though, and in the North Island, a lot of that wind has cleared away. It may still be a bit windy through central areas, a little breezy around Auckland and perhaps some of the hills in the east, but nothing too major, as that high, not a very strong one, but there is the high moving closer. So by Saturday, not a great deal of change from Friday. Still a bit of a southwest breeze at the top of the country, still a bit of a windy westerly around Wellington in particular and southern Wairarapa and through the southern Alps as well. Colder air stays in the same areas, so wintry conditions for those of you in Southland, Fiordland, around Westland and some parts of Otago. By Sunday, that colder air moves right up the west coast, so everyone will feel the colder weather and it's going to be cloudy and wet, or showery and patchy kind of rain. So not an ideal forecast for a long weekend, unless you really love Netflix, and then it's an ideal weekend. But colder weather in the south, not very wet, but still colder with a few showers around, and showers along the western side of New Zealand, including up around the Auckland area, as that is a little bit of a wind tunnel for the west to south westerlies, but dry and warmer in the east. So I've got a gust map here, 4 o'clock Sunday. It's not a major event, but you could be seeing severe wind warnings at the lower end of the scale popping up around parts of New Zealand. Again, it's mostly in the same areas affected at the moment, but this is a lot more reduced than what we're getting at the moment. Labor Day Monday, another stormy low out in the Tasman, 979 hectopascals. Now the long range modelling on this one for Monday's moved that low around a few times, but what we're generally seeing is west coast rain, another cold change coming through, and this one actually could be quite a cold change sweeping up the country over Monday and Tuesday. Windy, warm nor'westers ahead of it though, so it's going to be a warm Labor Day in the east and around the top of the country, a few showers around, but like I say, the rain is really on the western side, and more windy weather going into Monday. We could be seeing a burst of strong, severe gales, possibly getting into the power cut material, branches down and things like that, but it's a fast moving surge of wind that moves through parts of New Zealand on Monday. Now by Tuesday, check out your local temperatures on the Weather Watch app and see what's going on here. It is a wintry day around the South Island on Tuesday. Now it may not necessarily be wet, but we do expect some snow flurries through the mountains around places like Arthur's Pass. There could be some low level snow, and around Southland as well on the hills. It'll be colder for you. It's not a very nice day on Tuesday, especially for newborn livestock. The top of the country, some patchy rain moving through, and the winds changing to that southerly flow, so temperatures will drop. And there is a bit of a surge of wind on Tuesday. This is not necessarily in the severe weather warning criteria, but it's getting very close to it. And it's just a windy west to southwesterly straight off the Tasman Sea, and that will blow over the Kaimai Ranges and the Coromandel Peninsula as we go through Tuesday. That's probably still to be locked in to some degree. And our final map for Wednesday, the polar boundary still around the very lower part of the country, but mostly dry, maybe a shower or two, but mostly dry. And to the north, this is another area to keep an eye on. We've got some low pressure forming in this sort of area between the high that is on its way for the 1st of November, we think, we hope, maybe, and the other high that's leaving us away to the east. So we might see this develop a little more. It's not really locked in this far out with a weak area of low pressure like that one, but there could be a chance of some rain. Those around Northland, probably quite happy to see some rain. Northland's drying out pretty quickly now, as are many eastern areas, the eastern side of Northland in particular. The sad news for places like Hawke's Bay, we're not yet seeing anything to break the dry that's going on there, but we're watching it very closely. We'll have more details next week actually in our Climate Watch update as we take a look at November. So we'll be doing that very soon for you as we go through the changing weather that's coming along for New Zealand. That is all from me. Enjoy the rest of your day. Keep up to date with those MetService warnings and watches. I'll see you again tomorrow. We'll fine tune the Labour weekend forecast.